The U.S. Department of Education has gotten a lot of attention in the media over the last decade or so for various reasons. Personally, I've been a teacher for a couple decades, been a principal, head of school, and have dealt with the Department of Education on so many levels, and even worked with them at times on various projects. And really everything that you'll see about the Department of Education in the media, I care about, but what I want to talk about on this channel is the fact that the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, believes that it needs hundreds of Glock 27s and .40 caliber. And in addition to that, they also need Remington 870 12 gauge shotguns. All right, now you got my attention. If you've dealt with the Department of Education before, what you typically have is you have former educators, teachers, principals, superintendents, that sort of thing, somehow making their way into the administrative branch of the U.S. government. I know a lot of teachers that are great teachers. I know a lot of principals, vice principals, superintendents, school board members that are great people, great educators. I don't want them having guns though, most of them. Now, let's put that aside. So the educators, most of them should not have firearms, let's put it that way, in my humble opinion, in schools, or within really the realm of the Department of Education, whether it be on a state or a federal level. Now, why do they have guns? And this is really kind of the source of this particular video, is to answer that question. Why do they have guns? Why do they have shotguns? Why do they have .40 caliber Glocks? Well, according to the U.S. Department of Education, it's really their policing force that has the guns, not the educators, not the ones saying, here's what you got to teach, here's how you measure it, success, not those folks. It's the internal group that really investigates fraud, mostly financial fraud within the Department of Education, financial fraud within the education system, because there's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, going out every year to school districts around this country, and there's clearly fraud being, that you're going to deal with. People are flawed people, and sometimes greed takes over, and they want to get a hold of that cash. Well, the bottom line is none of those people are really a threat that I think you need a gun. That's my opinion. That is just my opinion. If I was working for the U.S. Department of Education and I was investigating fraud in a school district and I had to go into that school district building, I don't feel like I need a gun in any way, shape, or form. Now, as an educator, I'm going to kind of put a note to this. There's been a lot of schools that I've personally worked at that I've felt safe in because I was part of that community, and that, all the kids knew me. So even the dangerous ones, they liked me. Like, they weren't going to hurt me. I felt very safe there. More so, they'd probably protect me. But if I was just a random person walking into that neighborhood and into some of those schools, I would wish I had a Glock on me, just being honest. I remember talking on the phone with somebody one time who was threatening to come up to the school and deal with me, and I laughed at him. I was like, come on up, man. I dare you to try to walk through those front doors. You'll drive around the block and you'll be too scared, because I've worked in some rough schools. And there's, so again, if I was to have to go do business there and I wasn't used to that, I would very much like to have a firearm on me, especially if I was a policing if I was part of the police department of that particular administrative branch. Why all the administrative branches need a bunch of cops, I don't know, but there it is. in my humble opinion, the Department of Education should really be leaning on like the FBI, Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, that sort of thing to deal with these things. So I just don't think they need them. I really don't think they need them. Now, on a side note, I will say that one thing that educators are very good at is taking a little bit of money and stretching it. And the only smart thing they did about all this, if you must have guns in your administrative branch of this Department of Education, they got in with the U.S. Capitol Police and got a major discount. It's something like $500 off per firearm, which, in Glocks are like $600. That means they paid about $100 each for them. I guess in the end, they say they need it to be able to investigate without fearing for their lives. I understand. I like to have a sidearm on me wherever I go. If I go to the ice cream store, I like to have a sidearm on me. So I don't want to ever say, well, they don't need guns, because I think everybody does in America, in my humble opinion. But I just don't think they should be policing anything. Like, why, they just write curriculum and stuff. Like, stop trying to be a police force. Turn those, if somebody committed fraud within the U.S. Department of Education, turn it over to the Department of Justice. That's what the Department of Justice is for, in my humble opinion. So I believe it's just, I think it's all nonsense. I don't think the Department of Education should have guns. I don't think that the Railroad Commission should have guns. I don't think the U.S. Department of Agriculture should have guns. But all of the administrative branches of the U.S. government right now are heavily armed, including the U.S. Department of Education. You have a Glock 27 and a Remington 870 on you, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. That's plenty of arms to handle most situations that you might find yourself in. And I guess I come back to the Remington 870 shotguns are the ones that really I struggle with, because if you find yourself in a situation where you need to draw a sidearm, that's one thing, but you're going to go back to your car and get a shotgun and come back in? Like, come on now. That's what the Department of Justice is for, and the FBI, that sort of thing. So if you fraud the U.S. government, give it over to the real cops. Any thoughts or insight on any of that, definitely put that below. I do want to take a moment and say to most who watch the channel, hey, they're not subscribers, click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. So please don't ever, ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.